A third-generation Rajput regiment officer, commander of the second largest army in the world, my guest today, Chief of the Indian Army Staff, General V.K. Singh. Thank you very much, sir, for granting us this interview. I want to begin by asking you about Kashmir, which has been in the news all through this week. What is your own assessment of the ground situation in the valley at this time? How close or how far are we from achieving peace?
See, where Kashmir is concerned, it's a complicated set of things, if I can put it that way. You can never have this black and white answer. Everything is good, everything is bad. No, it doesn't happen that way. There are too many shades of grey. When we look at ground situation, we do find that the number of people who managed to infiltrate and were then encountered by our people has been lesser. But attempts more or less work out to be same. The terrorist infrastructure on the other side, nothing has gone out of it. There are fair number of indications which we get from the ground that there is still a tacit support that these people get. There may be a lot of denials on that, but there is. After all, it is part of an overall strategy from the other side. We had large number of protests last year. They have gone down for various reasons. How they come up again after the winters is over is a question mark. So, if I say the situation presently is under control, the law and order machinery is doing a good job, the army is keeping a track of infiltration that is occurring and taking the operations to eliminate the infiltrators, yes, situation appears to be fairly good.
Even when the situation appears to be fairly good, there was so much tension this week about wanting to hoist a national flag in Lal Chowk in Kashmir. And people on the outside wondered whether the situation is so brittle that just the act of hoisting a national flag can lead to chaos in the valley.
See, these are all political wranglings, political games, and I'll not get into it personally because it's not something which the army is concerned about. All that I'm concerned about is that the situation must remain under control. And as part of unified headquarters, we feel that we should give correct advice to the law and order machinery which is there so that they can tackle the situation better. So that's all that the interest is. Yes, for various reasons, there's been a lot of noise about a particular issue. I think as armed forces, I'll not get involved in it.
Sure. You also said that the situation is under control. But would you concede that that is only militarily? And as far as making attempts to reach out to the people of Kashmir and win their hearts and minds over is concerned, we haven't been able to make much progress.
See, that's why I said Kashmir is a complicated problem. You've got a set of law and order measures, you've got a set of military measures, you've got a set of politico-economic measures, and you've got a set of internal measures to take the people with you. Now, all these have an interplay, and all these must work if you want genuine situation to improve. We also must look at the ideology that is being preached, individually or at the behest, where certain things are being thrown at people. Certain people are getting influenced with that. What are we doing to counter that ideology? Is there some game plan? Are people working on that? Are the political parties, mainstream parties as they are called, are they working on it? So these are things which need to be looked at as in entirety. You can't do only one thing at a time. If we want improvement in Kashmir, I think it requires a very, very holistic look to say, okay, A, B, C, D, E, this is what we must do. And then have a set of contingencies where things go.
But do you feel that while the military has been able to bring the situation under control, the other steps that you spoke about, the political measures to try and reach out to the people, to win them over, we've not made any progress on them?
So I leave it to you to be a judge, because I've said this earlier. Militarily, we have achieved a great deal. The very fact that the rural areas did not erupt, where the units of the army were present, shows that we have a fairly good connect with the people for various reasons. But there are other things that have to be done, and I think those must receive due attention.
Sure. What that establishes, sir, is that in the 20-odd years that the army has been operating in the valley, we've established our military domination. So maybe now is the time, therefore, to take a political leap of faith.
Absolutely.
But the sense then that one gets is when the Prime Minister or when the Home Minister tries to push for some changes to be brought into the valley, whether it comes to the Armed Forces Special Power Act or when it comes to the issue of troop withdrawal, the army acts at that time as an obstacle to this political endeavor.
See, army has never been an obstacle in any one of these measures. All that the army is saying is what I said earlier. Please take a holistic look. Kashmir is not a problem because if you do A, you will achieve. It is not mathematics that if you do Armed Forces Special Power Act, everything is going to become rosy. It will not. What are you going to do if the situation goes bad after 6 months? Are you going to reimpose it? So I think we have to take a very, very different look at it, and somebody who is to look and chalk out long-term plan. It is not.
What would this be? This different look and this long-term plan?
Okay. What it means is that please look at all these sets that I talked of. Look at how they will play out in next 5 to 6 years. Then implement them. Don't do them because it is expediency at a particular time for a particular purpose. That doesn't pay. We've seen it happening in Kashmir. Lot of times our things have been going like a sine wave. You go up, then you go down, then you suddenly say, no, we went wrong. It doesn't happen that way. You've got to have a focus. You've got to have a resolve to achieve that focus. And you've got to have a long-term game plan where you are able to look at external influences and internal influences as to what do you want to do ultimately. And it's something which you got to put some people on the job to sit down and work out and not only look at short-term gains.
When the issue of troop withdrawals came up, you said that the time is not conducive for the army to be withdrawn. What according to you would be a conducive time? What are the set of conditions you would like to achieve before you feel confident that now the army can be removed from the valley?
The day these 42 terrorist camps are winded up, the day we have our neighbors saying, look here, I'm not going to do any proxy war, I think that will be the right time to say, okay, you wind up the army. After all, what is the army doing out there? Army is looking at the line of control. Maximum number is there. What we have in the hinterland is as part of a dynamic deployment that we have done to ensure that these terrorists, when they infiltrate, at various stages they are tackled. Now, if people are going to infiltrate, you require some people who can ultimately take care of them, as also build up that confidence in the population. If you look here, you will not be subjected to atrocities by some of these terrorists as they did in 90s when they came in, and support the establishment. That establishment is the government of the day. That establishment is the law and order machinery. We are not talking of the army at all now. So, if you have to wind up this portion, then you have to ensure that these infiltrations are not there at all. So that is how I look at it.
What you're essentially saying is any decision on troop withdrawal depends on the situation across the border.
Absolutely.
Does it irk you in some way, sir, that a decision gets announced to the public and the army chief does not even know that this is the decision that the Home Ministry wishes to take?
Well, that's why I said, so far as the army is concerned, we do not feel that there is a requirement at the moment. The day we feel the requirement, we will tell the government. In fact, we will tell our ministry, and I'm quite sure they'll communicate it accordingly. I still feel that what it was meant for at that time was reduction of the paramilitary forces and the central police forces to reduce that visibility factor. So far as army is concerned, it has already done a lot in terms of how people are deployed, how people have gone to the cantonments, etc.
Okay. When it comes to the 42 terror camps that you spoke about, do they exist independent of the involvement of the Pakistani establishment, or do they sustain themselves because of the direct help that they receive from the Pakistani army and the ISI?
See, there are inputs of various kinds that are available. And nobody, I can say that with confidence, will exist independently without somebody in power not knowing about it. So now, which establishment knows about it, I leave it to you to make a judgment on that. But I think there is a complicity.
When you say that there is a complicity, are you then concerned about where Pakistan is going? When the lawyers, for example, come out and support the person who's assassinated Salman Taseer, when people on the street say what has happened is correct, and liberalism seems to be dying, that will also in some way reflect what the Pakistani army at its highest echelons begins to think and then act on.
See, when you read the Pakistani press, I think these concerns come out very vividly in that. They do speak of how serious this problem has become. And I think we should look at it with that seriousness which even some of the liberal elements, or I'll say more intellectual elements, are looking at it in Pakistan.
Are you concerned, sir, that given the internal turmoil, the situation in Pakistan could get worse and there would be concerns about the safety and security of Pakistani nuclear weapons?
See, I think the Pakistan army, which is an equally professional army, has taken enough measures to take care of such contingencies. And I'm quite sure the leadership there is concerned about anything going wrong. Nobody would like the weapons like this to be falling into the hands of wrong people. I'm quite sure that they have taken enough measures to ensure that such a thing doesn't happen. But they have to be more careful. That's all that one can say. With these happenings, one just doesn't know how various echelons of society are affected. So that's something of a concern.
When the army itself is getting radicalized, and that could hypothetically create a situation where some people who are in charge of the nuclear arsenal could also be getting radicalized and influenced by extremist thought. For example, the person who assassinated the governor was after all his own bodyguard. At that point in time, do you think India needs to be careful about how we, for example, treat the dialogue process with Pakistan? You said that the terror camp still exists. The Ministry of Home Affairs says that no effort has been made to bring in the perpetrators of 26/11. At that point in time, how would you like to treat the relationship with Pakistan?
See, I think diplomatically, it is in our interest to engage Pakistan in talks and to get some of this animosity that prevails. At the same time, yes, the concern should be there that the elements are getting more radicalized. I'm quite sure the Pakistani army is equally concerned about it. And they would be taking their own measures, which any professional army would take, to ensure that such a thing is not going to affect their working, the way they're defending their assets, etc., etc. So, I personally feel that a professional army like Pakistan Army would be taking enough measures. I have this confidence that they would not allow such things to fall in wrong hands at all.
You've spoken about the radicalization of the Pakistani army. The other big concern is the rapid modernization of the Chinese army. What do you, sir, as the army chief, feel is the bigger threat to India?
See, let's not talk of threats. Threats only come up if intentions change. Every nation has a right to ensure that their own armed forces modernize, they become better. Yes, there's a greater modernization that is taking place in China, which was part of their 4 modernizations, in which the military modernization was the last. And they've done pretty well so far because of the type of economic growth that they have had. Their infrastructural development is very good. The same stretch of road, if it was to be made, let's say, anywhere else, would take much more time than what it takes in China. So, they are well up. We also have a border dispute with them. The border is unsettled. So, when things go wrong, one cannot say. But at the moment, with the confidence building measures in place, things are not as alarming as a lot of people make out to be.
We've spoken so far about external factors. I now want to shift my attention to internal factors, including what you've been emphasizing a lot, the internal health of the Indian Army. What is it, sir, that is being done to ensure that all the series of scams that we've seen rock the Indian Army one after the other don't happen in the future?
See, the first thing that has been done is to assure the command, to assure the rank and file, look here, we have a set of values. We have a set of core values which are different than rest of the people. We have to stick by it. Second thing that we have done is we have given out a set of instructions to all our senior commanders in the various conferences. Look here, this is the way it will move, and this is anything beyond this is not tolerable. Third thing that we have done is to tell everybody, look here, if something is going wrong, stand up and say it is wrong. Otherwise, you are part of it. I'm quite sure, as the time is going by, these things are making a difference. Aberrations, yes, have happened in the past. I don't rule out some aberration occurring in the future, but I'm quite sure if the internal mechanisms are made stronger, these things will go out totally.
I want to narrate to you, sir, an incident and an anecdote which a senior officer told me at Army Day. He said that when he tells a Jawan that what is it that you're doing, this is not okay, you shouldn't be doing it, the Jawan is now turning around and saying, sir, aap hum pe itna pressure dal rahe ho. Look at the generals, wo bhi to aise hi kar rahe. Are you concerned when such fears percolate right down the ranks? Absolutely. To the Jawan?
I think anybody would be concerned. And today, I think a Jawan can stand up and say, look here, if I was wrong and I was punished, so is the person who is on top, who is a general, and he is being punished. So I think the message is quite clear. Look here, we are going to spare nobody, irrespective of what position or rank that person holds. A wrong thing is a wrong thing. So with this message going, I feel very strongly that we will be able to stiffen the backbone up which had become flexible at some point of time.
But the greatest concern is that the post of the Chief of the Indian Army Staff itself, a post which had the highest respect amongst people all across the country, that post itself came under question and under scrutiny in the Kandivali Malad land scam, the Sukna land deal, the Adarsh building scam. The post of the Chief of the Indian Army Staff itself was involved. Does that in some sense lower the esteem of the highest office in the army?
It is sad. It's an aberration, and I think we will leave it at that. And I'm quite sure such things will probably not occur. I'll see once it is also in terms of what flexibility a person has, how things have gone wrong. I think this dragging of the post has been most unfortunate. And it is my fervent wish, it is my desire, it is my promise to myself that we shall not allow such a thing to happen in the future.
But if, for example, a situation arises that the chief, the former chief himself, needs to be acted against in some fashion, does that not in some way shake the faith that people have in the institution of the Indian Army?
It does. But then, like I said, these are aberrations. And once people know that so far as the army's internal mechanisms are concerned, it is going to get activated against anyone, I think that itself makes it strong. You know, that is the strength, that you do not look at rank, the position, etc., etc., etc. And I think as the last court ruling that has come, for whatever it is, I think these messages are going out very clearly.
Because the army so far was the one institution which was above all of this. Lots of officers now say that the army also emerges from the society. Society itself is degrading. Do you buy this argument, sir? Because in the last several months we've seen the media, the judiciary, the politicians in India have always been discredited and no one held them in high esteem. But the judiciary, the media, the army, all of them coming into scrutiny. Does this in some way reflect a degeneration of the Indian state itself?
See, I think I've clarified on this number of times earlier. And what I've said is, armed forces have a different set of values. When you enter this profession, you come with that knowledge. After that, if you are going to say, look here, society A, B and C happens, that is an excuse. That is an excuse of the weak. I think the armed forces and the army have a different set of values, and those are the values that have to be practiced. I'll not buy this argument to say that, well, everything is wrong elsewhere, so it should be wrong in the army. Then the force will disintegrate. How are we going to fight? You are supposed to operate when things are going wrong. You cannot operate if you don't have a set of core values.
Well, General Singh, you've understood that there is an issue and you're doing what you can to set it right, and I wish you all the very best in this endeavor. Thank you very much for granting us this interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.